What's happening, crew? We're back with another ride series how-to, and as you can see, I have a guest star again. So these seem to work really well when we have a guest star that we coach through. So as per usual, we're here in the beautiful Oz Trails, mountain bike capital of the world. We're surrounded by the sounds of nature and landscaping equipment as well. So you may hear that sneak in a little bit. It's all part of it. So what are we gonna do today? We're gonna handle a topic that it's a pretty hot one right now. It's Bermed Turns. A lot of people have asked for it. A lot of people have been doing it. So today I'm gonna break down my take on Bermed Turns. So I've been thinking about it for a while and how we're gonna break it down. I'm gonna go through how I do it and give you some rationale. Some people may not agree with everything, and that's cool. I have no issues with that. I wanna kind of work backwards. We wanna get through the turn safely and effectively. And I think there's a few things that a lot of people struggle with. There's a couple of small factors that I'm gonna leave a little bit open and kind of let you decide what works for you. So, also pretty excited bike-wise. Yeah, some of you may have noticed. On the all-new Specialized Epic Evo, really cool metallic orange color. So a little bit more of a cross-country bike, and if I'm not feeling comfortable with that, I can go grab the Levo SL. So either way, that's going to be my bike choice. So I'm hoping that this resonates with a lot of people out there that are on bikes that are very broad use. Now, I don't know if you noticed this, Brittany. I'm doing something else unique for this video.
Oh boy.
Because I want to endear myself more to everybody out there, okay? See those? See what you don't see there? You don't see cleats because I'm on flat pedals.
What?
So yes, I am on flat pedals. Brittany, we have some history, okay? A while back, probably more than 2 years ago, Brittany came to a ride series clinic. I can probably say it was eye-opening. It was game-changing for her as it is for everybody. Just give us some background.
A little bit of background is I have been riding for quite a few years. Rich his clinic popped up here in Bentonville before they actually moved. And my husband and I were lucky enough to jump on. Eye-opening, yeah, for sure. We learned a lot. And then, you know, revisiting the clinic a year and a half later and doing some more skills with Rich, I've learned a lot more. So it's kind of cool how you can progress in biking.
Now, another story that we need to talk about and kind of weave into this is the shirt. So if you notice Brittany's shirt, some of you may recognize that. It's a Women of Oz shirt.
Yeah.
Brittany plays a key role in Women of Oz, which is what got my wife Sarah really fired up about riding. So you do a lot. Give us just a little backstory about what you do with that incredible group here.
Yeah, sure. So Women of Oz actually started about a year and a half ago. Prior to it, we didn't see a whole lot of ladies on the trail. There was a group of phenomenal women that got together and said, hey, we got to fix this, right? So hence Women of Oz was born. Our first flagship ride, which is the first Saturday of every month. We had 35 ladies show up that March. And our last flagship ride before we got shut down because of COVID, yeah, I know, right? We had 175 ladies show up. So pretty neat numbers, mind-blowing, yes. And it's just amazing. It's amazing for the community. It's amazing for, you know, families in general. You know, if mama's happy, everybody's happy. If mama
Amen.
gets a bike, everybody gets a bike, right?
Amen to that.
It's pretty cool. But yeah, that's Sarah and I became good friends based off of Women of Oz, and I've got some long lifetime friends through it. So pretty cool organization.
So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna go through like we've done. I'm gonna outline a few different techniques and then kind of take her on this journey through berms and see if we can make some tweaks, change some inputs, and get some different outputs. So,
Sweet.
you know, as it goes, there's only one thing left now, Brittany. It is to say, we can point to the camera and get it ready, okay?
Are you
ready?
Yes!
Okay, so where are we? We're on All American. Probably seen this before. If you've ridden in Bentonville, you're familiar with this area. So Crystal Bridge is right behind us. This is probably the end of the beginning of All-American. So there's some really cool switchbacks. One of the things that we're gonna start with, and we're very quickly gonna let Brittany run through and then we'll start to break it down. And part of the issue we're gonna have is we were just setting up the shots and she went through really well. Like I'm looking at it going, it actually looks really good. So I might come through and kind of do some acting, if I can, on what we're trying to get people to avoid doing. So we'll do it together, don't worry. But the first thing, surprise, surprise, is body position. So again, at the ride series, what I say is the most important thing I can tell anybody is stay centered over the bike. And part of the reason is the bikes were designed to work with the center of mass over the center of the bike. So we're coming through a pretty decent berm. We're gonna load into that berm a little bit. If you're too far fore or aft, you're gonna potentially have some issues. So that's the first thing, is body position. Okay, so next thing is setup. Now, you get two wheels on the bike. One of them is the wheel of influence. So it's not a trick question. The front is the wheel of influence. So you need to have enough weight up front for it to do its job. And one thing to think about before you even get on the trail and worry about body position is bike setup. So you need to think about this. Where your stack height is, where your spacers are under your stem is gonna be an important thing, so think about that. As a rider, you need to be set up where you have your weight forward. So if your stem is super high and you're in that lazy boy comfy position, that's not optimum for getting your torso forward and your weight down on the front wheel, so think about that. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna ask Brittany to roll through this really sweet set of turns and we're just gonna see how it looks. Yeah?
That'll work.
All right, here we go, run one.
Sorry, Dad. Hey, if you want to test me.
That was, come over here.
The really short ones at the bottom.
We'll get to those ones. Yeah, that was really good. So let's pretend it wasn't and we're gonna break it down. All right, so first thing we need to think about is body position. So your body position was great. The keys, I think, with body position is to be in a comfortable, ready position. Now, this is the one that's kind of open to interpretation. At the ride series, what we try to do is teach people to be as relaxed as possible. There's no one ready position, in my opinion. So to come in, crouch down, and load it up. So when you're in like a quarter or a half squat, I call that loaded up. I don't prefer to be in that position. I like to be as tall as I can so I can always be dynamic. So I can drop in and I can use my weight coming down to actually load into that turn. So body position looked good. We'll play around with that a little bit. So I'll try to have you come in just a little bit taller and then be able to drop down into the turn a little bit. So it'll just give you a little bit more room. It was really good to start. So we're gonna think about, first thing is body position. So centered over the bike, standing tall. Second, obviously, is vision. Now, look ahead. Everybody knows that. Well, I like to break the cadence down this way. Look off the front, look ahead, left, right. So you always have to be scanning what's in front of you directly, but also what's to the side. So as you roll into this, you want to be looking, okay, I can see it's going to make a right-hand turn. I go through that right, and I'm going to start tracking left because I can see everything else. So the further you look ahead, obviously, the better you're going to be. And then that's going to lead you right into turn entry. So one of the keys with berms is entry into the turn. And we'll keep it as simple as we can. Maximize the space you have to use. Now, some people out there are watching this, and you know how they come into the turn, right, Brittany? Yeah. So if we have the switchback, they come in super low and ride right up to the top and go, oh crap. And if they're lucky, they make it, or sometimes they slide over the top. Completely reverse that. And we're gonna look at some of those down there. Right here, we have this nice, perfect arc of a berm. So what we're gonna try to do as riders is come in far right. So I got some cones right here. I'm gonna drop these, and that'll give us an idea of where we want to come in, where we want to enter, and maybe where we don't want to be. So body position, we have vision, then we have corner entry. We want to maximize our entry as wide as we can coming in. If we need to, we can play around with that a little bit, but we want to be able to come in set up well and get where we want on the turn. So this is going to be key. If you're in a situation like this, riding a berm, but you're down at the bottom third, you're not taking advantage of what's there. So that's a very critical point, because the idea is to get you up high so you have something to push against, so you can create a little bit more load and create more traction. So if you're coming through a berm and you're down below the berm part of it, you're not using it to your advantage. So really think about that. Now, the next piece is fore and aft. And so this is the one that I was hoping you would come in and have your hips a little bit too far back, but you didn't. The hips looked really good. In my experience, this is one of the biggest issues that we see is people coming through and their hips are too far back. Now, a lot of them come in, entered too far back, but a decent amount of people come in a decent position, but as they come through, they try to push the bike through to get it to turn. So what they're doing now is steering. We don't want to steer, we want to lean. So I really liked everything you did. What I want you to think about now is come in a little bit taller as you're coming in, a little bit more relaxed, standing taller, and then slowly drop in as you come through the turn and just play around with that.
Okay.
Is that good? Yeah. All right. So we're dropping a few cones down right now. So we have green, orange, red. Obviously what they're referring to is where you want to be. So the green one out here. So we're going to try to keep Brittany on this side of this cone as she goes through. So as I walk through, what I want to think about is where do I want to be in this turn? Now, we're going to split it in half, okay? And so I'm going to drop this right there in the middle. I would prefer on the top half. Now, you don't have to be all the way up there in this particular turn. All these turns are going to be a little bit different, but what I don't want to see is down here. Because down here, what we're doing is we're getting low, we're not using the berm, but we're also really tightening the radius of this turn, and there's just no need for that. So as we go out, it's gonna get a little bit unique because you got a little roller and then a right-hander. So what I'm gonna do here is, I'm gonna drop that one a little bit lower because I'm down to come a little bit lower to set up for the other turn. Let's see what she does. Good, nice and relaxed. Again, really good. The key here is she was a little bit more relaxed and started to drop down mid-turn, but fore and aft hip positioning looked great. Well done, too well done. So now let's talk about a few other things. The hip positioning fore and aft, so where you're at over the bike looking from the side is important. You're doing a really good job of that. Now what you're doing is you're rotating your hips out to help counterbalance, which is awesome. So everybody watching this, you can really see the nuance of you moving your hips out. Now, one thing I want you to try to do when you come through next time is think about guiding the bike in with your inside hand a little bit lower. Okay. So I'm not saying push. I want you to think about guiding it. Because at this point, we're talking about weight balance. So for me, my weight balance, I want to be heavy in my feet, but I want to be more to the outside of my bike. And the reason is if I have too much weight on the inside and something goes wrong, then I could lose traction. And that's going to be a key that we're going to talk about in a second. Now, one other thing we're going to talk about as we come in is speed and entry and braking. The simple breakdown of braking is you want to get your braking done as you come into the turn. So you want to get your braking done early. My best advice is play around with the speed. Start slowly. Come in way slower than you think and get comfortable with what's happening, then slowly bring the speed up. So you can roll the dice to try to figure out, oh, what speed works, or you can slowly build up speed to figure out what makes sense. Once that speed makes sense and you get more comfortable, you can start to get even more comfortable. This is gonna take time. If you can think about being smooth, okay, if you come ripping in and you have to grab a handful of brake and you're all wonky going through, I don't think that's the best way to do it. Come in as smooth as you can. So the smoother you are, the more comfortable you're gonna be, and I would argue the faster it's going to be. So speed and entry looked really good. Okay. Now, this time through, I want you to think about dropping your hips a little bit lower and seeing how that feels. Because what you're doing right now is you're getting a really strong hinge at the hip. Try to drop it down a little bit and see what happens. Okay. You're just gonna play with it. So instead of dropping the torso, drop the hips a little bit more. Okay. All right, try it. All right, she's rolling it again. She's doing really well. She's not exhibiting a whole lot of the things that we usually try to fix, so. How did that one feel?
Different.
Why?
Because I was taller.
Okay, did it feel?
And I laid it over a little bit more.
Different good, different bad?
Different good in the way that I can progress and use a different technique, I guess, to
Okay.
go through a berm.
Yeah.
Still the same base of the technique, but
Yeah.
be able to adjust
Okay.
during a berm. Does that
Okay,
make
yeah,
sense?
no, that's good. That's kind of what we're going for. The ability to make some adjustments, I think, is key here. If we step way back, the most important thing is going to be body position. So you're coming in centered over the bike, which is key. Too many people come in and shoot their hips back. That makes it really difficult to get the bike leaned over and get enough weight on the front. So you're doing that really well.
Cool.
Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about something that I think there's two schools of thought here, and I'm open on this. So the flat pedals, level pedals thing. A lot of people say, okay, flat pedals in berms, inside up in
Other one.
flat, yeah, I'll say it the other way. It's okay, it's okay. Inside up in flat turns, level in berms. There we go, I knew we got it. Okay. I'm gonna go through a couple times and show you what I do here. I ride through all of these with my inside pedal up. And there's a reason for that. It's because I'm more comfortable getting the bike leaned over and getting my hips out in that manner. The second thing is, if you're gonna come in with level pedals, how do you know which one to have in front? I don't wanna try to answer that question. So it's a little bit different for me. You're doing really well with your pedals level. Now, I'm gonna ask you to try to roll through inside up just to see. I'm not saying you have to do this. I'm not saying a right or wrong thing. What I'm trying to expose here is there are different ways to do it. Now, do I always have my inside pedal up? No, I don't always have my inside pedal up. When I'm at Winter Park ripping through a giant berm at like 35 to 40 miles an hour, no, I have my pedals level. This isn't that scenario. And so I don't think it's a hard and fast sort of thing. There are people that will come through here really fast, faster than me, and probably will want their pedals level to get that base. You're loading, you're building G-forces in these turns, but it's all relative. If you're not loading into these turns very hard, and there's a question of traction, my input would be have your inside pedal up. If you do not have to worry about traction or sliding out, then I would say that would be a situation where I would probably go with flat pedals. Think about it, because for me, I can't get in the position with my hips that I want to counterweight and get the bike low if my feet are level. And I know because I came out and tried it this morning. So I'm gonna run through a couple times and we're gonna look at it. So I'm gonna come through with level pedals. I want you to come through inside up.
Okay.
Let's see how it works.
Cool.
All right, I'm coming in and my pedals are level and I'm back. Please tell me you're recording right now. Are you recording right now? Okay. No, I just said, please tell me you're recording right now. This is gonna be good. Come here. Yeah, this is good. So, came through, changed the pedal positioning. How did it feel?
Me personally, I liked it.
Okay, no. And
I mean-
so the reason I got so excited and said, Brock, you better be recording right there.
Yeah.
What happened in that turn?
So the transition here, it was a lot more fluent, where I could just have one down and all of a sudden I just backpedaled and had the other one down, and it was
Okay,
like,
and then what
on
happened?
balance. As far as leaning goes,
Basically, what was the outcome of getting your feet transferred and your weight down like that?
yeah, so I actually could hug it a lot better.
That's exactly what happened. You came in and like I got scared for a second because I'm on the inside of the turn and I thought you were coming at me. So what that goes to show you is, in my opinion, you were able to rotate back. That rotation back with the outside down got your hips down, let you get lower,
Yeah.
and lean the bike more.
Yeah.
Leaning the bike more is gonna get it to turn more. So the problem was you turned too tight, right? You turned too tight.
Yeah.
How do we fix that? More speed.
All right.
If you came in faster, that would correct itself. So all we did was change pedal position, and now you can bring in more speed. The key here though is the timing of that. And you actually did it really good there. So again, we talk about timing all over the place. And we're onto something here. I like this. This wasn't supposed to happen like this, but I'm glad it did. As you come through and do that, the timing of that pedal rotation, you can ratchet that up or down depending on what's happening.
Yeah,
that's a very
slow,
and so I'm okay with that right here, because in essence, the inputs are slow. So does that make sense? Your speed is fast, but your inputs are slow. So really think about this, because we're gonna go down to the tight berms where your speed is gonna be slow, but what do your inputs have to be? Faster. The inputs have to be quicker. And so this is where people start to get tripped up. You're ripping through these, no problems. So I think if we go over there and play around with pedal position, what that might do is, that's your device to go quicker and get your weight set quicker. Does that make sense? When you come in with your pedals level, nothing's telling you to do that. Nothing's helping you do that. By rotating back as you go into the turn, that's helping you or telling you get those hips down and out. So we're gonna see how it works, but you still have to get the timing piece regardless of where or what you do with your pedals. So, man, it's awesome. I love it when it works like this. Okay, so we'll go through a few more times, we're gonna give you a few more slow-mo angles. I want you to just play around with this right here. Play around with the timing of the feet, because you're more comfortable here. So timing of when you rotate the pedals, where your hips are. So you're moving them out pretty well, drop them down a little bit and see what happens. Because if you drop them down, you can start to lean the bike a little bit more. Cool. So part of what I want you to try to do is bias more forward. However you want to do that, if I'm splitting the weight 50-50, I want to start creeping it forward a tiny bit. And the only reason for this is to push your level of comfort. If I had to say, do I want to bias forward or back? I always want to bias forward, but it's just a matter of how much. So the idea is here, you keep moving forward until the rear starts to get light and you don't feel like you have traction. Then you'll come back a little bit more. That's a very, very powerful place to be, because if within that turn you have to, you can slowly creep back. You're not creeping forward. Okay. This is it. It's real life, Brock. It's happening right here. Oz Trails. Okay, so we've unearthed kind of a byproduct of changing body position, bringing in more speed and getting set up better. So entry point was key. We talked about, especially in a situation like this where you have switchbacks that bounce back with a roller. So the last few times, Brittany's coming in with a little bit more speed, but what's happening is the input's happening quicker and she's getting too low into the turn. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna slow down the transition. So this might be a little difficult to explain, but when I say transition, it's coming out of this turn, lightening up and transitioning into this turn. We don't wanna change the speed you're traveling. Right. What I wanna change is how quickly you go from loaded this way to loaded this way. And this is a very finite thing, because now that transfer's happening quicker and the angle's pointing you right down to the inside. And what's happening is you're getting into this low zone, which is kind of awkward, and to counter, you're shooting your hips back. So my hope is we can get you a little bit higher, let the turn develop a little bit more, stay in the pocket is another way we described it. Stay in the pocket a little bit more and let that turn develop. And what I'm thinking is you're gonna load in more with the turn than down low and against it. So we can kind of build that pressure and you just rip out of the turn and shroup. Just do it, just like that, shroup. Okay, so what you wanna think about it as you come through mid-turn, everything's great right here. You'll let those eyes track up to see where you wanna be. At this point, you can eye up that spot that you wanna go to. And from here, I would roll out, looking at that spot, get light. Once I'm confident I'm getting that spot, my eyes are now tracking through. Hips are out, I'm thinking inside shoulder where I wanna go. And I'll even put the cone right here. You're gonna be on that side of the cone, okay? Like Dex does.
Felt good.
It felt good, and I quote, It looked good. That's what we call money right there. So now I want you to just ratchet up that speed a little bit. So the input you didn't hear was slow down, come in, so you're comfortable being in a different entry point. So this is that process that you're working. I told you, okay, change your entry point completely. That means come in slower and get comfortable. Don't come in the same speed so you're like, oh no. You slow down. Now, bring another mile an hour in. Okay, so then when you bring that speed in, the window right here is gonna close. So think about that. If you come in another mile an hour, you're gonna have to get this a little bit quicker. Make sense?
Yeah.
Of course it does. Go for it. Oh yeah, just bringing the heat. All right, turn. That looked great. I love it. So roll over here. I wanna get just some quick feedback. Did it feel stable?
It did, yeah. It definitely connect this line to that line properly.
Okay.
Felt so much better. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny that a line choice can.
So yeah, we're gonna have you do it again, and we're gonna run slow motion in this one because it's gonna be really cool to show the transition. As you come out of this one, you're rotating up and down,
Right.
left and right. So there's a lot happening right here, but the sound of you loading through there was incredibly consistent. Cool. So it's funny how it's a visual piece, but it's also audible. I'm listening for what those tires are doing as they go through. And I would prefer in a turn like this, they load evenly. All right, so hit it again. Looks awesome. More speed, more confidence,
Yeah.
you're really dropping it in. So now where you're at, the next evolution is gonna be, think about what your outside foot is doing and what your inside shoulder and arm are doing. So part of this, if I can create this picture, you're coming in pretty fast. You're putting a lot of G-force into the turn. So with the outside pedal down, the bike could have a tendency to want to kind of roll up. You're countering that with this. So this is something that some people are going to watch this and go, dude, you can't have your outside pedal down because it's going to stand the bike up. That's relative. Yes, there are people that will come through with enough and create enough force to stand the bike up. I would argue as a percentage, that's a fraction of people. It's not me, it's not Brittany. There's a tiny bit of it that starts to happen, but it's not gonna be an issue. You're not gonna get flipped up over the berm. But what you can do is you can counter that by dropping the torso a little bit more. So that's the next thing you would think about later on. Because what you're gonna think about right now are those tight switchbacks. We're gonna go hit the tight switchbacks that Brittany doesn't like them. A lot of people don't like them. But what I saw here just needs to be applied there. The technique is the same. The window of application of the technique is different. And this is where I think most people have the issue is, instead of speeding up their inputs, making their inputs quicker, they don't, they slow their inputs down. And that's where it all goes wrong. So we're gonna go, and we're gonna watch it go right.